How's it going, guys? Dustin at Daily Grind Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be building out a positively correlated NFL slip for Thursday Night Football between the Bengals and the Ravens. Before we get into the video, though, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button while you're at it, because it really does help us out. We would appreciate it. And now we can pop over to the Daily Grind Fantasy website where you can see the correlation tool. You can see the correlation performance graph right in front of you. Underneath my camera, it actually shows we are up 556 units over the last 3 months. You can kind of see how it's went over those last 3 months here with the chart. Now, positive correlation in DFS is one of the biggest edges right now, and we're going to talk about why it's such a big edge, being able to play these on a set payout platform like PrizePicks and Underdog. But before we get into that and revealing the slip for the game, I do want to talk about the success we had just this past weekend, right? Guys, NFL, college football, and soccer, probably the three more correlated sports that we have here on the correlation tool. Other ones correlated, just not as much, right? And you guys can see it here in these slips. College football absolutely crushed. 5 20x or 25x slips given out on the correlation tool. Not every slip is going to hit, guys. Say you played 30 slips, you are still up big when using the correlation tool through those college football slips, right? It's just math. You hit multiple slips, you played 25 of them, you're up, whatever it might be, right? So you're up big in college football if you played those. Then the next day, NFL, we hit 4 slips. Say you played 15 NFL game slips. I'm not sure what you played, what your bankroll is. You are up big, right? Pretty insane weekend for the correlation tool. Happy to see it. Of course, followed up a pretty big weekend last weekend in college football. So college football on a good 2-week stretch right now. But let's go ahead and talk about positive correlation. Positive correlation, if you are new to correlation and what it is as a whole. Let's start from a beginner aspect. If X happens, Y and Z are also likely to happen is how I like to explain it, right? Let's just say if Josh Allen is going over pass yards, it's likely that Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis are going over receiving yards. That's very surface level and very easy to understand when talking about correlation, right? That quarterback is kind of that main factor, that kind of everything else feeds off of. So that's why, correlation is so high here in NFL and college football. But one of the reasons why it's such a big edge is because of the payout, right? The payout that we get playing them on a set payout platform like PrizePicks, Underdog, etc., right? I'm going to show you this slip for Monday Night Football that just happened yesterday. It did not hit. It did not hit, right? Fine. Totally fine with that. It's not every slip is going to hit. We understand this. Hopefully you guys watching do understand this as well. But we're playing the game script of Josh Allen to go over pass yards, Stephon Diggs over receiving targets, Gabriel Davis over receiving yards, Russell Wilson over, I think it was pass yards, and then Jerry Jeudy over pass yards, or receiving yards, something like that, right? So there's a positive correlation throughout all of that. And as you guys can see, we have Stephon Diggs over receiving targets. And why is that? Because that was the most positively correlated slip possible with the props given to us on Underdog, right? So we were showing, we scanned the market for all of the props across these apps, right? We take into consideration not only, their percent odds to hit via, the optimizer, or let's say plus EV, tactics. And then, of course, what is the most positively correlated when played together in targets for Stephon Diggs came into play here on this slip. It could be multiple different types of slips. We've seen unders and punts, overs and punts, field goals missed, not field goals missed, but field goals made or not made, etc., right? So it all scans the market, pulls these full slips in for you. But now, like I mentioned, let's look at the payout of this slip. If we would have went 5 of 5, we would have won $2,000 playing it here on Underdog, the set payout platform. I want you guys to take 1 second, take a little guess in your head. What would the same payout for this slip be on FanDuel? I'm going to give you 2 seconds. Boom, boom, boom. Just throw out a random guess. Did anybody guess that it would be $1,000 lower on FanDuel than it would be on Underdog? Pretty insane taking that into consideration, right? But why does FanDuel dock these payouts for this positive correlation in same game parlay, right? Because FanDuel understands that when these plays are played together, it's a higher chance for it to hit. Therefore, they're going to give you a lesser payout if you're putting them together because they know there's an edge when playing them together in the same slip, right? So that's why they're docking payouts. We are fortunate enough to have Underdog and PrizePicks where they are not docking payouts, and we are able to play these slips together without a payout adjustment. Let's go ahead and pop over to the correlation tool and start talking about the slip that we're going to be entering, right? So Bengals, Ravens, and if you guys don't know, we have multiple different sports books and leagues that we're offering. You can sort them however you would want. I want the PrizePicks slip for NFL today, or not today, but just in general, and I could even sort by games. So boom, here's the slip. So profit margin of 147.24% and 81.28 correlation score, right? Correlation score closer to 100, 100 being the max is what we're looking for as far as correlation score. That means that it would be the most highly correlated slip. 81.28, not the best I've ever seen, not the worst I've ever seen, but nonetheless, still going to be a good slip for us here on PrizePicks and a highly correlated slip. So, boom, here it is. If you didn't know, now you know. We give out fully correlated slips here on this tool. Like I said before, we scan the market, find the most positively correlated slips, put them into a slip for you, portray it here on the tool, or you can get it emailed to yourself by adjusting your notifications and such. In general, if you guys don't have access to the tool, you guys have been seeing the success, linked in the description, you guys can go ahead and get access to the correlation tool. And if you don't know about our optimizers and also known as the fantasy bundle optimizer and middling tool, those combined would be the fantasy bundle. You can get access to that as well, linked in the description, where we find you guys the best plus EV plays on the PrizePicks, Underdog, ParlayPlay, Fliff, all your favorite DFS apps. You can also get access to that as well. But now let's talk about why this is positively correlated. Looks like we're going to be starting out with Lamar Jackson over pass yards. And we'll stick on the Ravens side of things when we're starting to explain this. If Lamar Jackson's going over pass yards, it's likely that his top target, Mark Andrews, or one of his top targets, let's say, is going to go over receiving yards. So, therefore, that's the positive correlation we're looking at here on the Ravens side of things. So let's go ahead and add Mark Andrews over receiving yards. And in the same game, on the flip side, we have our Bengals players that we're going to be taking, of course. So Joe Burrow to go over 1.5 passing touchdowns, right? If Joe Burrow is going over 1.5 passing touchdowns, it's likely they're moving the ball a lot. They're going down the field, hopefully they're passing down, the field more than not, especially for what we're rooting on in this slip. But nonetheless, they're getting down the field. They're scoring points that are not what? Field goals. So Evan McPherson under 1.5 field goals. If the Bengals are scoring multiple touchdowns, Joe Burrow's throwing for multiple touchdowns, it's likely that Evan McPherson is not going over 1.5 field goals, right? Because they're scoring touchdowns instead. So there's some positive correlation there. Evan McPherson under field goals. Boom. But not only that, we can correlate even more here on the Bengals side of things. If Joe Burrow is scoring touchdowns, they're moving the ball. Jamar Chase probably catching a lot of those yards to move them down the field, being the number one target there in Cincinnati. So Jamar Chase over 81.5. Jamar Chase over 81.5 receiving yards. Boom. So if you guys can't tell, what we are rooting on here is a lot of offense. Offense points to be scored, right? So you're playing a little bit of a game script here in hoping for these overs. But if these couple things happen, like Lamar Jackson going over pass yards or Joe Burrow going over 1.5 passing touchdowns, it's likely these other things are going to happen, right? That's where our positive correlation comes in. And then on the flip side, right? If Joe Burrow's passing a lot, Jamar Chase going over receiving yards, looks like Joe Mixon would probably be going under rushing yards. More passing attempts and more passing equals less rushing, rush attempts and rushing yards for Joe Mixon. So let's get that in. Keyboard's in shambles. All good. All right, so then Joe Mixon under rush yard. So that is going to be the fully positively correlated slip here off the Daily Grind Fantasy Correlation Tool. Best of luck if tailing, guys. Not every slip is going to hit, but playing these plays at volume, and that's why it's important to have this tool on your own, have the optimizer on your own, especially too. Tailing the few plays we put out here and there across YouTube or Twitter, etc., is not going to be enough to basically assure profitability, right? Playing these plays yourself at volume is how you guys are going to do that. But still, best of luck if tailing. Let's go ahead. Offense. Best of luck, and let's cash.